All right. Welcome, everybody. This is the first interview of the relaunched Rushby Media. And honestly, I don't think I could have asked for a better first guest. I'm joined by longtime Liquid player, Grand Slam winner. I pretty much won it all except for the major, unfortunately, but it's coming, I believe. I'm joined by NAF. How are you getting on today, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I won it all, and besides a major, and yeah, I'm pretty far from a major right now. I'm not at it right now, but yeah, hopefully better days come ahead this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a new team. Like, there's still plenty of time. Like, it's a strong looking team. And, like, once you get those things into gear, like, it'll be all good. But I have faith. From your background, you're in Netherlands right now in the boot
Yep,
camp.
yep,
How's that
just
been
in
going?
the facility. Yeah. Obviously it was very tough after losing in the RMR and then having to fly instantly over here and play the showdown versus Saw, and yeah, we didn't show up at all. Obviously, I mean, it was a little difficult to maybe fix things or kind of be in the right setting, after switching time zones and all that. But yeah, no, I mean, it's been a little tough, but we've had a lot of meetings and a lot of talks to improve upon our future, and yeah, a lot of us are still confident. So
Right. That's good. So like today I kind of want to talk to you about like your career and like starting off. So for you, there's obviously like the sloth meme. We've seen it kind of creep into your personality with like the stickers that you've had at the major in the past. At
yeah,
what point in time did you kind of decide, okay, this is my brand. I am Naf the Sloth?
yeah. I mean, I don't know. It must have been. I mean, just over the years. I think just like seeing that and just kind of taking it and just running with it and kind of turning it into a brand because it was just so big like everywhere. Like I don't know, at least like just on Twitch, like I'd be watching games that involve me and it'd be everywhere, and then I'd be watching games that I'm not even in, and then I'd still see it just pop up randomly, So I'm just like, I gotta take this and run with it a little bit, but unfortunately, yeah, no, in terms of like branding and all that for myself with it, I've been kind of lazy, of course. Like I don't like stream or anything like that. Of course, Liquid helped me do like a little merch line with it, but yeah, no, I haven't really made too much out of it, but I definitely embraced it though for sure.
Yeah. With the merch line, was that something that you brought up to Liquid, or did marketing come to you and say like, look, we got to capitalize on this now?
I think brought it up to me, but at the same time, like I was also somewhat interested in doing it, and so yeah, no, we kind of said like a mutual agreement to kind of get it going. So yeah, no, I think it was more from just both parties that were interested in doing it, and Liquid is able to kind of make it happen. So yeah, I was excited to go on with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like when I was doing the research for this interview, I was like looking through your Wikipedia, your HLTV history, and the earliest traces that I could find with your pro career was back in Mouse Spaz in 2012. What's like what was your like origin like getting into the esports side of CS then?
Holy cow, there's a lot to unwrap there. I think back in the day, I just I mean, all I can really say is that towards the end of my career in Source, I guess you could say, like the very last season, I was able to make an invite, which was like top of the leagues back in the day. I think a lot of people nowadays don't know what that is, but nowadays you kind of have like your open, intermediate, main, division, advanced. But back then it was just open, intermediate, main, and then invite, and then that's where like all the top players were playing back in the day. Like obviously in like 1.6 there was like nothing Shangares, and then you obviously had your Days and Steel and like other players from Source and all that playing. But yeah, no, going into CS:GO, I instantly started out playing Invite at the top league, like I mentioned, with like all those top players. Um, yeah, no, it was definitely a really crazy time because I think during that time I was only like 14 years old and I was technically playing like in the professional scene, I considered. So but yeah, no, back then it was crazy. I bounced around so many teams because a lot of players, a lot of teams were interested in me, but I was definitely highly like immature and I didn't really handle the things in like the best of ways. I just thought I was the shit somewhat, but you know, yeah, I remember playing on Mousepaz. I played on like some other teams like Veritas. I think originally I played on like Veritas in Invite in CS:GO, and then like I switched to Mousepaz for like a little bit, but I wasn't on Mousepaz for that long. And I think like a couple days later, not even like a week later, Days invited me to play on his Denial lineup. I think at the time, or we were sponsorless at the time. Yeah, and it was like me, Days, and Mosbeck, and some other interesting names. Maybe some people would know from the past, but yeah, no. Back then, I was switching from a lot of top teams back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So it was definitely really interesting during that time.
Yeah, like that was just kind of like the beginning of esports really being like big in terms like you can make a career out of it, I guess. Like not like to the same extent that you are now, but being a 14-year-old then and getting into those situations where you were highly sought after, what was that kind of like with your family trying to explain like this is video games, like I can make money from this, I'm a big deal in this side?
I mean, yeah, no, obviously it was just like a lot different. I definitely know I had time on my side because I was really young, so I was kind of just like going to school and then just coming home playing Counter Strike, and there was obviously small things back then. Like obviously in like 2012, 2013, 2014, there wasn't really that much money involved in CS, especially in North America. So yeah, no, I just remember playing. Like, I would even win like small things like on ESCA, like RWS of the month, or just like some of these like monthly challenge things that you get rewards from. But you'd only get like peripherals, like headsets or mice, stuff like that. Something very
Yeah.
small. Um, but I was able to win like some things where I was able to like win like some small amounts of money. I remember even before I got like a pro contract, like it was the Denial lineup in 2014, where it was like me, Deps, Nitro, Fugly, and I'm not sure who else is on the team at the time, but we won like this John Wick Invitational tournament, and it was like 2 grand a person when we won. We beat Mousepaz at the time in the final, and we won like 2 grand. And like I remember just like telling my mom like, yeah, no, I just like won like 2 grand. And she's like, holy shit, like, that's awesome. And but yeah, no, and then obviously later on, 2015 rolled around, and that's when they started giving out contracts to be like an actual professional salaried player. So yeah, that's when like 2015 came around.
Yeah. And like you said, like you started playing in Source and you played all the way through CS:GO, and now we're into CS2. With the way that CS2's been kind of unstable, like you've seen those trends with like when a new game launches with Go. How did you kind of see it when CS2 launched and it was a bit like shaky?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot of the games I feel like when they came out, a lot of them are really shaky. Obviously, you can see it in terms of CS:GO. When it first came out, it was like but by the end of CS:GO, it was a completely different game, even though it was considered the same game. Just a lot of updates and a lot of work came out of it from Valve and all that. So I feel like obviously with CS2, it's like obviously a lot different, and I don't really know how like the networking and all that works for the game, how difficult it is, because you see a lot of games nowadays that are coming out. A lot of them are struggling, like when they're first released with so many issues. Obviously, so it's not just like a CS2 problem, but just like I don't know, just a game problem, I guess, with developers nowadays. But I don't know. Obviously, I think I was a little bit disappointed because I felt like they had a lot to go off of it with CS:GO and CS2, and it just seems to be like I don't know why, but a lot of things take like so long, and there's just so many problems. But then again, counter CS:GO took like years and years to kind of reach like a really good state of the game. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Obviously, it's a little disappointing, like I said. Um, I definitely honestly, my honest opinion is I just kind of wish they just never even made CS2 to be honest, because literally like the other night I was actually watching like a bunch of CS:GO clips, and I don't know, I'm just like looking at the game, and the game just everything about it just to me just seems so much better. Maybe not visually. Obviously with CS2 they definitely made things visually more appealing, but when it comes to the shooting and the mechanics and the things that really make competitive uh, gaming, especially in Counter Strike, like the feeling that you kind of got from playing it like that, it was just so much better. Like I enjoyed the shooting so much more. Getting headshots and getting kills felt so much more rewarding. Whereas I don't know, nowadays with CS2, the game feels like the skill ceiling in CS2 isn't as high as it was in CS:GO. I feel like a lot more rookie or like new players can now become better and faster and all that way quicker in CS2 just because the game kind of somewhat allows you to do that.
Yeah.
But then again, I think it obviously helps. It obviously makes it easier for new players to kind of get in and enjoy the game. But at the same time, for even players that are older and maybe their motivation and just their energy of keeping up with CS:GO during that time and just realizing how tough the game is mechanically and shooting wise and skill wise and all that, it was also very difficult. But I think it makes it easier for a lot of older professionals, some that are kind of just more drained, whereas like this game kind of maybe doesn't seem as more taxing mentally, of course, when you're playing it as well, even with
Yeah.
the fewer rounds nowadays with MR12 instead of MR15. It could just make also older players maybe feel somewhat better as well about playing the game. So there's like a mix of both worlds that help it, but yeah, I don't know. Hopefully with the time and the years that come, that CS2 will improve. I don't know. I'm getting kind of old. I won't be around maybe when the game is actually really really good and in its prime. But I definitely just think there's a lot of work to do. But I definitely wish I could have still played at least the rest of my career on CS:GO because I truly believe like that game was just overall just the better game.
Yeah, like you said, you were disappointed when CS2 came out. Would have preferred it to stay on Go. Considering the fact that this is your livelihood, this is your job, did that affect your motivation at all when the game came out and it was so broken and it's still like it hasn't hit like the perfect stage of like it was in CS:GO?
Mm, I definitely, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I definitely thought it was obviously going to be a huge change of pace, and maybe I would have to do more or so,
Mm,
just because I don't know, I don't really want to talk like negatively like about myself, but for CS:GO when I was playing like over the years, I didn't really put too much time into the game. I definitely thought about the game a lot and always thought about things and the best way of playing and the best way of just just being a high performer. Um, so yeah, I didn't put too much time into the game because I felt like I understood most of the game. Even when watching the game, I didn't feel like I had like too much to learn. Of course, obviously you'd get ideas from other top players and all that, but I just didn't really feel like I had to put too much work in to still be like a solid player in terms of my roles that I'm playing. So um, definitely when CS2 came out, it definitely felt a little more nerve-wracking. Maybe like it's just maybe I might have to put in more work or change like my work ethics and all that to kind of keep up and play with other players. And then again, kind of like I said, it's mechanically wise. I mean, more so just like I guess like just like the shooting and the combat in the game are just it's just a lot more easier. So now it's like you really need to stay on point in CS2 to really keep up with a lot of the new players that are coming up and just playing against other your competitors and all that. So, but luckily so far, I mean, I think I've been doing like all right in the game. It's unfortunate that I've only been playing most of like North American competition. I'd love to just consistently be playing versus European competition, just so I can just be used to the play styles and all that they're playing. So, but overall, there was a little bit of nerves to it, I guess, but I don't know. I got over them pretty quickly. I don't know, like I don't know. I feel like I can always adapt to anything, even if the game even changes itself. I'm still there to adapt to it. So yeah,
yeah, like you said, kind of being able to keep up the top level of competition in Europe, it's a lot more effort needs to go into it.
yeah.
In terms of the other big game that is in North America at the moment is Valorant. Was that ever a calling to you at any point? Did you get the text from Nitro saying, "Come on, bro, just come over to here. It's way easier."
Uh, nah. I mean, I don't know. Again, kind of like with the games where like they feel kind of easy. I think Valorant is another one where like the game, people will probably listen to me and say this like you're saying like the game is easy, but the game is easy, but uh people I don't know how to kind of like word it. It's like the skill ceiling in that game is also like very low. I feel like anybody could be good at the game, but I think that's also when you actually play competitive. I think that also is like what makes it like a lot more harder is because
Mm,
everybody can pretty much be good at the game, so it's very tough to actually just get into it and play it. But overall, like the baseline of the game of how it's actually just how the game is, it's designed to be easy in my opinion. So I don't know. I don't really like when like games are like that in my opinion. I want to feel like if I die, like I died for like a really solid reason,
for a good
not
cause. Yeah.
yeah, not because of just the shit that happens in Valorant. But I don't know. Overall, I don't know. The game always looks pretty good competitively wise. It has like such a insane fan base and structure. So I mean, it was definitely really helpful for a lot of players in CS that went to Valorant in their careers. Like I
Mm,
mean, you look at like Tarek and the way he's streaming and what he's doing in the game. Um, but yeah, you also see a bunch of other random players from CS, like in the NA scene. I think like even like Zelsis or something like that. I know he's doing really well in Sentinels. So I don't know. I think it definitely helped a lot of players out, which is really nice. I'm really happy to see that players from CS that didn't really get chances or just felt like their time was over, is that they got a shot at redemption playing Valorant. So I think that's like really cool. But in terms of me playing the game, nah, I didn't really have any ideas of playing the game. Like I don't know. I'm still very comfortable and successful in CS. Maybe not in terms of results, but other things.
Overall, it's been okay. We'll
Yeah.
wipe off this one major,
Yeah, just not
but
nowadays. Nowadays, past 4 years have been very downhill, but whatever. It's alright.
um, Yeah, you mentioned the other players that went over, like Tarek and Zelsis, and like another one who obviously became very successful at the start of Valorant was Nitro.
Mm.
And going back to like the earlier stages of your career, a lot of people might not realize that you had a very short stint on Liquid when Nitro was there back in the start of 2015, I believe it was. Tell me about that first stint from what you can remember. Like, how did it come into play? Like, who was it that actually hit you up to join them for that small stint?
Um, so yeah, I just remember it was like towards the end of 2014. We actually played a ESEA season 17 lane, I think, which number it was, as Denial, and we ended up actually playing like pretty well. We had good results versus other NA teams. We beat Elevate and like Cloud9 at the time, who was like the best team with IBA power. Played Titan really close, um, and then also played IBA power really close before we got eliminated. So yeah, everything was going pretty well there. And then yeah, I think like just like 2015 rolled around. I think like that LAN happened in like November, early December. So and then I think just during like the holiday break, I think someone we just like removed someone from the team, or no, I think Shazam left. So we're looking for like a player, and I think we got a Dren, and a Dren was able to actually tell us and let us know that, hey, I know Liquid is very interested in getting into Counter Strike. I have some relationships with people from Liquid, and they would want to talk to me and talk to us about, getting involved in Counter Strike. And in the start of 2015, that's pretty much what happened. Obviously, it was we all got signed from the Dial team. I think it was just me, a Dren, Nitro, Dabs, and Fugly.
Mm.
Yeah, and so that was pretty much like the start of the team. Uh, Played on there for like a couple of months. Me personally, I was having like a lot of personal problems within my life, so it was like difficult to kind of keep up and play with the team and like actually be focused on playing the game. um, so yeah, just after like a couple months of playing, obviously some like like okay results in North America, nothing special, and not really having any success internationally. They just obviously wanted to just move on, and then that's when they just replaced me with the Liege. And yeah, so obviously that's where my story kind of ended within Liquid after just like 2 months or so, 2 or 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah, like it wasn't the longest stint, but then like you did bounce back at after Liquid. Your first big international success would be OpTic, and I think a lot of people look back at that OpTic lineup very nostalgically, have really good feelings about it. 'Cause it was kind of like one of the first big times where you could see an org outside of like the complexities or Liquid at the time being really successful internationally. How do you recall that your time on that team?
You want me to go straight to OpTic, or do you want me to like kind of just talk about Conquest a little bit?
Oh yeah, Conquest. Like I wasn't too familiar with Conquest. I know that from my time watching you would have been Liquid and then Optic because I was kind of getting into Counter Strike at that point. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Conquest.
I mean, I guess I can kind of just like go through real quick, but yeah, obviously after being cut from Liquid, I don't think I was on a team for a while, and then actually Luminosity was really interested in me, but that was like the lineup with like Pit, PTR, Lex, and Anger, I think at the time,
Yeah, I
and
looked at that. Yeah, and I seen I was very
yeah,
confused.
yeah. So I put on that team for a little bit, and I was actually playing pretty well. I was performing really well because I think I had high expectations and a lot more responsibility in that team compared to my previous teams. But at the same time, I think I was still immature at times, and I definitely just like wasn't right in the right headspaces at times. But I think I was still performing really well as a player, especially in North America. But yeah, no, after that, I was only playing on that team for like a few months or so, and then I ended up being cut. It was actually a very hilarious fashion. But I remember just being at like this house that we're all in Toronto, and it's like 12 a.m. I'm just like on like a blow up mattress, just like no blanket, no pillow, just chilling, trying to sleep somehow in this way in this house. And then my manager or my team owner Steve Buyaka comes upstairs, or Steve Buyaka, I think his name Buyaka. I don't know. I just know I think his name is like Buyaka. So and then he just comes up and he's like, "Yo, Keith, can I talk to you downstairs real quick?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And then he just takes me downstairs. He's like, "Yeah, the team doesn't want to play with you, man. Like, unfortunately, we're gonna have to
Wow.
cut you." And this is at like 12 a.m., 1 a.m. in the morning. And he's like, "Do you want time to sleep and then I get you a flight and then you can leave, or do you just want to leave right now?" And I'm just like, "I just want to leave right now." But the funny thing is, when that actually happened, I remember I was on my computer before I went to bed, and I was talking with Rush and Daps, and about maybe in the future forming a team. And
Okay.
I told them like, man, things are kind of rocky here. I don't know how much longer I'll be here for. I don't know, maybe I'll be cut. And then literally like 2 hours later, right before I was going to bed, and then I got cut. And then I went back onto my PC and I said, "Yo guys, I got cut. Let's make this team." So like obviously with me. me, Rush, and Deps, and at that time we had some other players because after that our team went into Elevate. It didn't go
Mm,
straight into Conquest. And on Elevate we just did some things with that organization, nothing really too much. And then after that we became Conquest, and then I think that's like really when the start of the journey of that team that later on became OpTic. That was just pretty much like how it all started out. And yeah, originally on that Conquest team, it was me, Daps, Rush, I think RYX and Shazam. I think when that team came to
Conquest, yeah,
play, yeah,
yeah.
and obviously, I think that's like when the journey for our careers like really started. Of course, we had glimpses of that playing on Liquid and having success with Denial towards the end, playing that ESL in.
Mm,
We definitely felt like we could definitely build something. And with Conquest, we're definitely just starting to build with what we left off earlier in the year. And we're playing online tournaments, qualifying for LAN events, which was like really big. And but we're definitely just having just problems sometimes with some of the players and the teams, and just internal issues. And then yeah, we cut some players and we became OpTic at the start of 2016, which was really nice. I just remember during that time it was just crazy because Call of Duty was really huge. I remember even watching OpTic in like FaZe and Call of Duty, seeing what they were doing and all that. And yeah, during that time, I think OpTic and FaZe were honestly literally two of the biggest and most rapid growing organizations in esports. So I remember we got in talks with joining OpTic, and then I was like watching a lot of the vlogs and a lot of the things that they were doing with like Hector and a lot of his employees and stuff like that. And we ended up signing with OpTic at the start of January in 2016, and we definitely had some initial success. We won some tournaments. I think even at the start there was like this road to Vegas, which is to qualify for E League. We won that, even though it was just two teams.
yeah.
uh, But it was just really cool being able to join OpTic at the start because I remember like after Conquest, I think my following at the time was at like I had like 6K followers on Twitter, and then literally like 2 weeks later I had like 30K. That's like how crazy the OpTic fan bases and the fan bases back in the day where it was just like so insane. I was like, damn, this org is fucking awesome. But and
Was
the
that
support that we
intimidating
get.
at all?
No, not really. I never felt like I felt intimidation or stress or pressure to perform, even though Hector at times he was very encouraging of content creation,
Mm,
but he understood that Counter Strike is a busy schedule and it's a busy life. So at the end of the day, if you're doing everything you can to win, then you don't have to focus on that. But it's like if you're gonna slack off, then at least do some content on the side, or something.
yeah.
So, but yeah, no, that's how it pretty much all started on OpTic. Yeah.
In terms of like your early career, you mentioned a lot there about your maturity and like upon self reflection, you probably said that you weren't the most mature and you need to grow up a bit. Daps is also another person that you mentioned there quite a lot, and he's like a bit older than you. He was been your coach, he's been your IGL so many times. Do you think he had any effect on like your like maturity and like kind of growing up a bit, or?
Um, no, I mean not really. I just feel like as I kind of just got older, I was able to just understand things. Maybe even if I was like just mentally maybe just like not in the right places or just like feeling like I'm a little behind in terms of just social skills and stuff like that. Like I mean I admit like when I was younger like I was a little bit more like antisocial, more shy. Like it was hard for me to kind of get into things and the conversations and all that. But um I just kind of grew out of it as I kind of got older. But during my time with the depths and all that, I mean, I think regardless, like he did help me kind of grow up like a little bit, of course, because during those times, like I was on his teams, like we're always around each other, talking online or playing at events together, So I'm sure during those times I took a lot of life advice and just things about just how things are during those times from him, because Damien, known him since the start of my career. We played our careers together pretty much for the most part. Um, so I'm always super happy to call him a friend, and just yeah, no, just all the things that we've been a part of, and he was a part of my success to where I am today, and I'm sure it's the vice versa for him as well. So
Yeah, like I was kind of saying there, like I wasn't super familiar with like your time in Conquest or like that time because I was kind of getting into CS around the time of OpTic. One of the earliest things I remember, and me and you talked about it in Katowice, not last year, the year before. I mentioned one of my favorite clips ever was the one of you shouting at Rush and it appearing
shit,
that it was toxic, and you said that it
yeah.
wasn't. So, do you want to explain what the context of that clip was if anyone isn't familiar with it?
Yeah, of course. The OpTic NAF rage video. I mean, yeah, no, it's perfect. I mean, bad publicity is great publicity, so I'm happy that it happened.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, we're just playing at the MLG minor. This is the qualifier for the major qualifier for Cologne in 2016. So it was a while back, a long time ago. Um, yeah, no, I mean, Rush and I, first of all, Rush and I, him and I both just like we had such like a older brother, younger brother relationship. At least like that's how I felt, and I'm pretty sure you felt the same. I think this is something we brought up. It's just like uh I feel like, just like literally just what siblings and brothers would have where like they would just argue a lot of the times, but at the end of the
Mm,
day when it's over, like they're cool. Like there's no issues. And if I could go back, like not like go back, but if I could look back and I look back at a lot of my teammates, I can honestly definitely say that Rush was probably one of, if not my favorite teammate I've ever played with. So obviously with with that video happening, people can say what they want, but he was definitely by far one of my favorite teammates, if not my favorite teammate to play with, because I just enjoyed him as a human being and as a teammate and all that. I think it was always just fun. Um, but yeah, no, to go more in depth on the video was as you can see, like we're playing Nuke. I think like we're CT side. But obviously what people can't see is like when Russia died, he was like complaining to me about something for like 10 seconds while we're all still playing in the game, and I'm trying to listen and play and win the round, and he's like talking and like bitching about something to me as I'm playing, and then and it goes on for like 10 seconds, and then I ended up dying, and I'm like just like a volcano about to erupt literally. So it's like when I hear all this shit and then I die, I'm like, dude, like, can you just shut the fuck up? Like, what the fuck are you saying? Like, I'm still playing. We're still playing. We can still win the round, dude. Be quiet. Obviously, and I blew up on him, of course. And that's of course that's what everybody sees. I blew up in game on the in-game microphone instead of bitching and raging on the TeamSpeak microphone to everyone. And I was nice enough to just yell at him when I was in dead talk, so not everybody hears me. But but it was like, it was just, I don't know, it was just unfortunate. Whatever happened. But I just remember like even like the next round, it was like, all right, like all good. Drop me a gun. Let's go. It's like, yeah, so like we didn't care. Nobody
mm.
on my team gave a shit or anything like that, and especially Russia and I didn't give a shit. At the end of the day, we thought it was funny. But obviously on the outside, everybody just thinks I was super toxic and all that stuff like that, which is understandable, I guess. But it was funny how that was treated and brought up even over the years, even years after that even happened, to be honest. So
Yeah, I mean it's quite an iconic clip, and I think even if it happened on something like a larger broadcast, they're not going to have the in-game chat. So it's just funny
yeah.
the way that it works out. And I'm pretty sure it was like a Portuguese speaking streamer that heard it, and he just pauses and laughs. So it's funny to
Yeah.
look back on. But yeah, in terms of like another teammate that you had on Optic was Tarek. And you mentioned there with
Yeah.
like Hex kind of encouraging the content creation, and he's obviously taking that to the next level now with where he's at in his streaming career. In terms of yourself, you said that you don't really stream, but after your career's said and done in CS, is that something you kind of consider taking up more, or?
Mm, um. Yeah. I mean, maybe there's like a possibility. The shit, like, I don't know, like the shit thing I guess to say about it is like, I don't know. I definitely feel like if I wanted to become a streamer, I should have started streaming like a long time ago, even though it would have been very tough. Because I don't know, I feel like just like as you kind of get older, you tend to kind of fizzle out, and even with my social media presence and all that, it's very limited. Like I don't really care too much about social media. I try to just like live my life a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, of course, maybe something I would try, but maybe it's too late for me to do that. I'm not sure. Like maybe, well, that's something maybe I'll maybe look into, maybe just for fun. But I don't know. It's
I
all
mean,
about what the community kind of wants.
yeah, I mean, you mentioned there with like at the start of the interview about the sloth meme, like there's games that you're not even in, and they're mentioning Annie and Affers. Like, you do have quite the reputation in the CS community. I think a lot of people would appreciate it. So I don't think you're definitely in a bad position in terms of that. So
Yeah, I mean, if anything, like I'd love to be a variety streamer that just like
yeah,
streams like a bunch of new games that come out and stuff like that. Like a lot of the big streamers. I think it'd be fun. I think I do have somewhat of the personality for it to be streaming. But yeah, no, who knows? Maybe we'll see. I don't know. Counter Strike
yeah,
for me is
we
still
need to
treating
get
me
you and
well.
Rush.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
gonna have just me and Russia and I reunion, and we can really talk about what happened.
So yeah, like Optic was that kind of big first international break, and in terms of winning that E League, What was that like for you and like getting that exposure on like the international stage at that time?
Mm, I mean, obviously leading up throughout the year at E League, there was like a lot of ups and downs. Even though we qualified for Cologne, I think like was like the first major or the second major of that year in 2016. Second one, obviously because I had Columbus at the start. Um, I don't know. We had like a lot of mix of results, and then later in that year, obviously we had the situation where like we got rid of Stanislaw for Tarek, and then we ended up getting rid of Daps for Stanislaw and brought him back in. And yeah, I don't know. When we made that lineup, with me, Rush, Mixwell, Tarek, and Stanislaw, we were definitely starting out something that could be really great. I think a lot of our scrims and our practices and our matches and officials, we were grinding and we were making a lot of progress. We're making a lot of really nice results within that team.
Mm.
And I just remember even like before that, I think we won like that DreamHack Montreal event. We had like some decent placings at some other events. But I remember we played the group stage of E-League Season 2 and we did fairly decent. We did pretty well. We were able to win and beat the teams that we needed to beat. And then I think after that we flew to DreamHack in John Coping, like the Open, and we got complete, just like dead last place. We lost to Cloud9 and I think Gambit. And we were like, holy shit! Like we did so well, and then now we're like rock bottom again. And then the event after that we had to fly to was E-League Season 2, the play for playoffs, because we already played the group stage prior. They played group stage and playoffs at different times. And then we showed up for playoffs and we're just like on our A game, like we're just owning like every matchup that we had. I think like we played like mouse boards, and then we played like Phase. I remember Phase was a big one to play. Hector always like brought up about how it's like our first time meeting Phase, and it's also on TBS, like actually going to be on TV. So there was like a lot of hype around it. I remember he gave out like some offers that were actually like pretty cool. I think there was one where I don't know if this one went through, but I remember he made like a deal with Tarek and Rush. It's like if they win this, he'll give them this or something like that. And then I remember he actually he's like, all right, it's like if you beat FaZe and you actually go into the final to win the tournament, instead of taking I think like at the time I think OpTic took like a 15 or 20% cut of prize money or something like
Mm.
that. Then he said if you win, I'll only take 5%. And we're like, okay, like that's pretty cool, like an extra motivation, to win the tournament, of course. Um, but yeah, no, we played like mouse boards, we played FaZe, ended up beating FaZe. It was a huge W for ourselves, of course, to make it to the finals. And I'm sure Hector was very happy at that time as well to beat FaZe. I'm sure he kind of gave his FaZe counterparts, I'm sure he has a lot of friends over there. I'm sure he gave him a little bit of shit about it. But and then we went on to the final to play Astralis, which was a pretty insane series from all of us and myself in particular. I don't know. I peaked so hard, dude. I peaked 8 years ago. I should have saved that performance for like a different fucking time. But no, I was super happy to play really well and win that tournament and win my first tier one competition. So I was super happy. I was a little bitter at the time that like Rush got MVP. I thought it was bullshit, but that's how it is though. But he played really good throughout the entire tournament, and I played pretty good throughout the entire tournament. But he played great as a player throughout the regular season, whereas I guess in the final I played really really well. But so I was a little bitter about that, but it was great to win that. And after that, I think we went to ECS for the season 2 finals, and unfortunately we lost to Astralis there, but we made another final. So our team did have like a lot of good results, winning E League, winning Northern Arena Montreal, getting second at another tier one event at ECS. And then I think even towards the end of the year, the last event of the year is the major qualifier, and we qualified for the major. I think like 3-1. So towards the end of 2016, there was a lot of success.
Yeah, like you said, you had a lot of success. There was a lot of good results. Everything was kind of going up. What can you kind of tell me about like the decline of that team and what led to it kind of breaking up?
The decline of OpTic was I think like obviously towards the end of 2016 everything was going great. I think there was some internal issues from what I've heard from that Stanislaw like didn't really like me as
Oh,
just I don't know in some ways. And then again I kind of maybe agree in some sense. I think I still was like immature at the time, maybe didn't say the right things. But I don't know. I'm still kind of growing and trying to getting better at just being a teammate, just saying the right things, doing the right things. So
mm.
maybe there's no blame there. Um, um, so yeah, going into 2017, our first event was the E League major, I think, and I think during that time, actually, Mixwell was having visa problems, so we couldn't even practice. He couldn't even come to NA to practice or anything like that, and I don't think we had any practice at all before the event. He just got what he needed, and then like we just showed up and played the event. And obviously, that's extremely disappointing going into a major with like no practice. And then I think like our first two matchups were versus Virtus Pro and Astralis, who were the two teams that later on went to go make the major final and play against each other.
Mm.
And we think we lost like 16-12 and like 16-13. They're both like really super close results, where like it honestly could have been anyone's game at some point.
Mm.
And then losing those two like was a huge bummer. And then we played Godsent for at like 0-2, and we ended up just getting owned on cash. And yeah, after that, I don't know. I think after that loss, it like really killed the vibe within the team. Yeah, I don't know, cause I don't recall doing that much with the full lineup of me, Stanislaw, Rush, Tarek, Mixwell, and all that.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what really happened too much after the E League major. I just know eventually Stan ended up leaving. I remember we just showed up for practice one day to play, and Stan wasn't there anywhere. 10 minutes, 20 minutes go by, and we're wondering where Stan is. And then we just get a message from Stan that, hey guys, I'm leaving for Team Liquid.
Oh
And we're
wow.
like, oh, okay. I mean, a bit unprofessional in the way he did it, but at the
Yeah.
time, a lot of us were at some points. But everybody has their own reasons for doing whatever they want to do. So Stan ended up leaving, and then I think that's when the IGL dilemma like started to happen, where like we couldn't find anyone to IGL. There was no good players really on the market for us that were like up to our standards in our opinion. Like I think we went through like we had Hazed at one point. I think we had Jason R. I think for a little bit at one point,
Yeah.
and
Hiko.
then yeah, there's Hiko. Yeah, no, there's Hiko at one point. So I think it was like I think it was yeah, it may have been Hiko at the start when everything happened,
Yeah, it
and then
looks
we
like
had
you had
Hiko for a
Hiko
couple.
for Katowice.
Yeah, we had Hiko for like Katowice and like DreamHack Vegas and like some of these events. I just can't remember how if he was like the first step. I guess like he was the first replacement. I
Yeah.
remember we were trying a bunch of people. Like I think we tried like Hiko, we tried like Freakazoid, we tried like some other players at the time. So yeah, we played with Hiko for a couple events, didn't work out. Played with Jason R for a couple events, and yeah, it just didn't work out. And then we played with Hayes, who at the time I think before that was coaching us, like helping us,
Mm.
and then he just became like a player to help us again. And but yeah, no, nothing really felt like it just gelled or clicked together. I think, yeah, it was just really really tough. I think the last thing we dealt with was the PGL Krakow major qualifier. I think at the time with
Yeah.
that lineup, and we just bombed like 0-3. I think we lost our first game to Penta, and then I think we lost our last game to like Renegades or some shit, and we were just like, yeah, I don't know, this is just so disappointing. It was just like, I don't know, we are just walking around with wounds like throughout the whole year. Like we couldn't really get anything, we couldn't gain any progress. We were always just bleeding out from the team, just slowly, slowly, slowly. Um, and then I remember, I think like somewhat after that, Tarek and Rush got asked to go join Cloud9. Um, and during that time, that was very tough. But at the same time, I was very happy for them.
Mm.
And then obviously later on after that, it was just myself and Mixwell, and then obviously Hector. At the end of the day, he has a business with OpTic that he needs to do. So it's either rebuild in North America, where you pretty much have no future, no hope, or build a European international lineup around Mixwell, and obviously that's what he ended up doing. So the way it ended obviously was very disappointing and miserable. Especially, I think it meant a lot more to me on that team because it was a team that was built from the ground up, and I was there from the start, and I was there when it ended. So it was tough to see it end because it was like everything you worked so hard for with that team to build that it just died, and obviously that's really disappointing. But yeah, no, overall during that time it was very disappointing and at the same time very depressing. Obviously at the start of the year I see one of my teammates go to Liquid. All right, like Liquid's like our top team. I think a lot of N8 players hope to land there one day. So he got there. Tarek and Rush they go to Cloud9, which is again another team where I'm sure a lot of people would like to be at, and they got to go there, which is good. I was happy for them. And then It was obviously Mixwell being this getting to stay with OpTic, and yeah, so everybody else kind of felt like they went like they were able to continue upwards and trend upwards, whereas with me and OpTic kind of just being cut, kind of like left in the dirt pretty much.
Mm,
Like there wasn't really much said about it, and it was kind of just like, all right, here's your bags, like good luck, Obviously, I was a little disappointed how it ended on OpTic, but um, yeah, no. So it was very disappointing to see all my teammates go upwards, whereas I kind of went like straight downwards. And so after that time, it was actually somewhat depressing and difficult to deal with. So yeah,
yeah,
but yeah, no, that's how like the OpTic team kind of rose and
but
fell. Ooh.
like in terms of the end of OpTic, when I was looking through the history of it and your results, there was like a couple of maps where you played on a full international lineup. It was Alu, Mixwell, Magisk, and Freiburg. And you've mentioned pretty publicly in the past, you've mentioned to me that like you'd like to play on a full European lineup. And obviously this was a completely different time like back then. But what was that like on that lineup? Was there ever a chance that you were going to stay on it, or how did that work out?
Mm, yeah, I just remember like they just came to me, obviously after me being like cut. They're like, "Hey, we just needed like your help to play like some of these
Mm,
ESCA matches online for Pro League and all that." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Like I don't mind playing. I have nothing to do." Um, and yeah, no, I remember meeting with the guys. I remember all the time. A lot of them are great, just funny, chill people. Like Alu, especially. Like some of the shit Alu would say, dude. Like I can't say it here, but man, he would say some of the funniest shit when we were playing. And he was such a good teammate. During that time. And then obviously Magis was really young. He was an up and coming star player that that had a bright future. And obviously I saw that. And obviously Freiburg at the same time, legend of NIP. Getting to play with him was cool. They kind of listen how these guys talk and how they think about things. Um, so yeah, and then obviously I was just playing with Mixwell, and their fifth that they wanted to get was HS. I think it was a Estonian
yeah.
player, HS. But yeah, no, I played with them for like the first week of games, and I think like they were so impressed with how I was playing that they actually wanted to keep me. They actually wanted me to continue playing with them instead of playing with HS. Um, they just said, like I was super talented, I was super smart in terms of like clutching. I remember like I won like some insane clutch, and like Magis was just like, dude, that was like the smartest played clutch like I've ever seen in my life. And but yeah, no, I remember just like before I was leaving that team of the guys, they're just like, we wish you like all the best. We think you're super talented, and we think you should find a place anywhere. But it's unfortunate that doesn't work out. And yeah, it was just difficult back then because obviously OpTic was just like an NA structured organization. They had nothing in Europe. I think like remember like Alu was telling me, I was like, dude, you can just live with me in my house. And I'm just like, yeah, I'll just live with Alu, I guess. But no, I think it was just like a bit too far fetched during that time in
Mm,
the world of esports to kind of have that happen. Um, so yeah, there was definitely talks about it. They were definitely very interested in playing with me, and I was very interested in playing with them. But obviously just with how things were back in the day, it just couldn't really come to fruition really. So yeah, that's like kind of like how that little international stint went with OpTic.
yeah. And then in terms of after OpTic, you obviously moved to Renegades then, and with another North American on the team, Nifty. How did that move come about for you?
Yeah, I don't know. I just remember, yeah, just being benched from OpTic, pretty much like just fulfilled all my duties. Obviously playing with the European lineup for a little bit. And then obviously I was looking at other teams to play for. Uh, so yeah, I think like the only two that I think were really worth looking at was like Misfits and Renegades. The ones that reached out to me and were like interested in me. But I can't remember who was on the Misfits team. I think it was like maybe like Sick, Shazam,
Sean?
maybe Sean Gares, maybe if he was still on that team. I'm not sure. I
Yeah.
think he must have been.
I
Maybe
think
I'm not
that's
sure if he
year,
was on
that
them.
era, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I remember he was playing at like a major in 2017 or something. I think so. Yeah. So yeah, I guess of that team, and then there was Renegades. But then to me, I don't know. I looked at both, and I don't know. I just the Renegades guys. I don't know. I feel like they had a lot of experience playing against European teams, and they didn't have like North American players really. They had Australian players, and I don't know. I
Mm,
think they just had they just had completely separate vibes and interests. I don't know, like compared to playing with NA players. So I don't know. I kind of vibed a little bit more playing with the Aussies and Nifty. And I also thought like a lot of them are super talented. I think Nifty had a lot of potential. I think JKS was like insane at the time. Um, so yeah, I just ended up going with Renegades. did everything, transferred from OpTic on the bench, sold to Renegades, and yeah, just started playing with Renegades.
Yeah. And you mentioned before with the time in Optic and that final, how you said it was like your individual peak. But when it came to like the ratings itself on Renegades, you seem to be the star player that it was built around. And like you had such a high rating, like I think it was 1.26 for your time in Renegades, which is just mind boggling. But what was that like having being like the centerpiece of that Renegades team, or is that how you even see it?
Yeah, I mean, so when I first started out on Renegades, when I first joined them, I initially just came into the team with the same mindset that I had on OpTic. Like, I'll just play like any role. I'll let you guys be comfortable. I'll do it anything that you guys say, whatever you guys think is best. And yeah, no, I just remember playing like the first. I just remember playing like the first couple events or couple of weeks we were playing with them, and I don't know. I just had like just like this just great feeling of just depression, just like thinking about all my past teammates, where they got to go, and like I ended up in Renegades. And I think like at the time, I think I was like really negative, and I maybe wasn't treating my teammates in the best of ways
Mm.
because I just felt like my career was going down while everybody else that I knew was going up, and it just didn't feel right to me. I'm just like, I think this is just a little bullshit, honestly. But maybe with that type of mindset, maybe that's why it's been going down for me, right? Uh, so after playing on Renegades for like a little bit, like I said, I fell into like a deep depression, and I actually ended up I actually told them within like a month of playing with them or so that actually I didn't want to play with them anymore.
Oh
I
wow.
already I had an owner with Jonas, to talk with Jonas, and I think their manager like Snubs, I think at the time, and I was telling them like, dude, like I can't play. Like I don't know, I just like don't have it in me to play anymore. Like I don't know, like I don't know. So at that time, I was actually contemplating like quitting Counter Strike because like
Oh
I
wow.
just literally mentally just didn't have it in me to play anymore, and it just felt like everything wasn't going as I hoped, and I felt like it was so unfair to me to be playing while everybody else has like all these opportunities and all that. So, but at the end of the day, they told me, at the very least, can you finish out the year with us later in the year? Blah blah. Like we have qualifier for Katowice, we have qualifier for Star Ladder, we have the qualifier for the major. Just play these tournaments with us, and after that, we'll let you do whatever you want to do. And I was like, okay. Uh, and I was like, honestly, like I don't know, I had like just a look in the mirror type situation where it's like, you either continue fucking doing this and you become very successful at it, or you just kind of like die here and just like your career is done. And that's like pretty much all you'll be known for is what you have. So I think I just came into it with like a completely do or die mindset. Like, what do I have to lose? Failing, like, who cares? If I fail, I fail. Like, I feel like I'm already in a place where I feel like I've already failed, in my opinion. Like, that's how dark my mindset. How dark my mindset was when I was playing with Renegades. Um. So yeah, no, it was just do or die, and I pretty much came to the team and just said like, all right, like I'm just gonna be the guy like on this team. I'm gonna be him. Like where I'm just gonna be. I want all like the important roles that I feel like that are good for me, and I want to have like a lot of the say. Even though Nifty, was calling like a lot still, but I still had like a lot of the freedom in terms of like the micro in some areas, and they didn't really care what would happen if I died or if I was responsible for us losing a round or anything like that. I was still just gonna like just play my game and do what I wanted to do, and if anybody had any problems with that, for the most part, like they can go fuck themselves. Like I didn't really care. Um, but yeah, no. I mean, to compare that team, it was kind of like a mouse sports with like Nico. Of course, I'm nowhere as good as Nico, but just to kind of have like the idea, it was mainly just playing around one player for the most part. Like obviously JKS had his places where he could be good at, but I think I took up too much space in that team where I just felt like I was making a lot of my teammates shittier, which
Yeah.
was obviously maybe not good, especially for JKS and all that. Maybe taking up a lot of space where like he felt very shut down and very closed. But at that time, my mindset like I didn't really care. Like I'm here to perform and do well, and we had somewhat decent results for a team for like Renegades. But I the one thing that I'll always be grateful for that team is just like with any other players, I don't think I would have been able to do what I was capable of doing with other players. All those players were super selfless in terms of their playing and the way they thought about me as a player and the things that they wanted for me to succeed. It's almost like they didn't really even care about their individual prowess that they could show off. They just want to make me happy, and they felt like the team can function when they're doing that. So Obviously that's like a huge thing that I loved about the team. Aaron
Mm.
Azza and Carlo Ustillo, those two are like the most two selfless people like I've ever played with, in my opinion. They didn't care. They didn't matter if they died. The crazy thing about playing on Renegades is that like none of them argued ever. I think I
Really?
only heard them argue once. Like they were such like they're so tight knit with each other that like I don't know. It was maybe just the Australian way, like they're just super relaxed in terms of everything. And I'll be super grateful and I really appreciate what those two did, Ustillo and Azza. And then obviously I'm sure at times Justin and all that was frustrated with his individual self or how the team was being ran, and he still powered through it and made sure that he was playing good and at the same time supporting me to be a good player. And also shout out to obviously Noah Nifty. He was the IGL captain, the leader, and all everything. And regardless, he still let me live out my vision of playing the game and the things that I wanted to do to perform, and didn't care about it. And he just I don't know. He made me happy for playing the way that I was able to play and try to help the team get the results as much as they could. And then obviously I had my coach Alex Casad. I think he was the same boat. He's a coach, he's a leader figure and all that, and he was very open to letting me play the way I wanted to play. So I was super grateful to even at the end of the day be playing with those players, even though at the start and all that I didn't treat them well, and I felt like I didn't treat them like I deserved respect back at times. And at the end of the day, they still gave me my flowers and everything that I needed. So at the end of the day, I don't know, I was super happy and I'm super proud of the Renegades guys for how we did things on that team. To be honest, looking back, I mean, of course, I would still go to Liquid, but I think it would still be very interesting to see how I could perform and play on that team if I didn't end up leaving. But yeah.
Yeah. Considering where you were at mentally with the game and like how you're kind of viewing things in that Renegades team, like the same way with North American teams at the time, like Australian teams weren't exactly going to be like winning international lands, but you guys won like this. Was it Star Ladder, the I League?
Yeah, we won a Star Letter China event. Yeah.
Yeah, and like you won MVP in that event, and after not getting the MVP, you felt like you deserved with the OpTic international land. Like, how did that affect your mentality when like looking at how you're going with the game?
Um, obviously with the China event, uh, looking back at it, some people will look back at it now and think about, oh, there maybe wasn't the best teams there and all that blah
Mm,
blah. But there was still like the golden five, pretty much of like the Virtus Pro lineup that we played in the group stage and got smashed by, and then smashed them in the finals.
yeah.
And there was actually still some other decent names in those servers if people actually look closely at them. I mean, obviously you had Hellraisers with some of the good Hellraisers players, and I
Mm,
think the first round we played was versus Havu, and that team still had like Alexi B and Sergey and some of those decent Finnish players.
yeah.
So and at the time, like where I was playing on Renegades, I wasn't playing on like some top dog in Cloud9 or Liquid or something like that. Like we're still a middle of the pack team. So playing throughout that event, I played well. The team played well. I remember, yeah, like even in the final, I wasn't really like the best player. I think it was like Nifty or like some other players. So everybody
Yeah,
had like
Nifty
their
put up crazy
parts.
stats in it. So
Yeah, so everybody was doing their part, doing their thing, and the team was functioning really well. And yeah, it just worked out. We won the event. I played well again, and yeah, everything was going pretty good. But I mean, even at other events, like we still had decent results, even though we didn't go too far. But we're still getting like some pretty decent wins, like just looking at other events. So throughout that event and other events, there was somewhat of a redemption going on, of course, with how it all
yeah,
started on Renegades. So I was super positive and I was super happy with how the things were going, with how the team was progressing.
yeah. And you said like obviously when you got the approach from Liquid, you of course were going to go there because like you said, if you're a North American player, Liquid, Cloud9, those are the big ones that you want to go to. And when that approach did come, who was it that reached out to you at the time?
Yeah, I think I remember I was just on my computer, just like at home, and then I think I remember just seeing the Steam pop up. Nitro like messaged me and was just like, "Yo, like, you want to join Liquid?" And I was like, "Shit, sure, man." But I mean, obviously it was a little different at that time because he asked me, he was like, "Do you want to join?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, I mean, we're very interested in you, but at the same time, we're very interested in your teammate Nifty. So
Oh,
there's something we had to fight for a little bit." But
yeah, because that was around the time that it would have been Nitro was opping, right? Because when they picked
yeah,
you up, because it
well,
was for JDM.
yeah. So that's when we became a full 5-man lineup. Yeah.
Yeah. And that came right after Cloud9 won Boston. And with that being like two of your former teammates, what was that kind of like for your mentality in terms of like coming back to North America with like a very strong lineup at the time?
Um, I remember seeing that. Obviously, I was very happy for Tarek and Rush for their, being able to win a major and all that. It was really good, and I was happy about it. But I don't know. It depends like how you take it. Sometimes some players are bitter when they see ex teammates win, and they win without you. Um, I think there was like a little bit of both. Like seeing
Mm,
like them win, and I was like, like fuck those guys. But at the same time, like I was very happy for them, and Cloud9 as an organization, all that to be winning, especially the first North American team winning a major and all that,
yeah.
super cool. The storyline and the fashion that they did it, coming from O2 and going all the way back to win the major, super sick story, Cinderella story. But, happy for them. At the same time, I'm like, I want my team to be the best in North America. I want my team to be the better one. So
Mm,
I think pretty much like honestly from there, it was just like a grind to pretty much show that like we were the better team, and then obviously over the years, obviously history tells you a story, I guess, right?
yeah. I mean, coming into the start of that Liquid lineup, like, what can you tell me about like those first few results or like those first couple of months, like trying to get things working as a team?
Uh, I remember just starting out. Like honestly don't remember too much. Like I mean,
Mm,
we started out. I mean, I went to LA. They had like apartments there in Los Angeles, and then they had their facility not too far away. So it was like a new change. Playing with those players on Liquid. Obviously at the time it was me, Twist, Elige, Nitro, and Steelega, I think. Yeah,
it's
Steelega was
still,
the
yeah,
first
yeah.
one. And then we had Zeus as a coach. So, obviously, a lot of good players. Happy to be here. I think the first event we actually played was CS Summit.
Mm,
Um, yeah, we showed up there, and I was playing really well individually. I was happy that I was able to carry off my form from Renegades to Liquid, so I was super pumped. I was playing really well. The team was playing really well. I could tell things felt different because I feel like the level of tier of playing was different from the opposition, but at the same time, my teammates. So it was really enjoyable. It was fun. It was what I was looking for in a team. And we just played. There were some good teams there. Like I think we beat like SK, we beat NIP, and then we ended up beating Cloud9 in the best of five grand finals, even after they won a major.
mm.
So yeah, no, I remember during that time it was actually really funny because I remember like we won, and like that was the first time like Liquid got trophies like on HLTV. It was like the
Oh
first event
wow.
I joined them. And I always look back. I always thought that was funny because like they cut me originally in 2015, and I come back and I literally saved their asses to actually get a trophy. So maybe some of them are like can continue to live their lives. That they're like, holy fuck, finally we got one a little bit. Because obviously on Cloud9 and OpTic we were able to get one, but Liquid we were never able to get a tier one event.
Mm,
So obviously that felt good. That's obviously as a player coming in to win your first event feels good. Makes you reassure you that they made the right choice for the team and all that. So I mean, like I said, like they could have ended up playing with Nifty, and it could have been a completely different story, a completely different boat. I don't know what my career would have been like. I don't know what the Liquid lineup and future would look like. Maybe they win two Grand Slams without me, like in like 20 days or something. Like I don't know. But yeah, no, but yeah, no, that's how Cal all went. CS Summit was first event, we won, super happy, and then we went on to play some other ones like Star Ladder and Katowice. We got pretty close there, I think, in some of those. I think we actually got like third, fourth at both of those. So
mm.
I think we're posting some good results with the team and all that. So yeah, it was good. I think it was good at the start for sure.
In terms of you mentioned Steel there, and obviously the change was made for Taco, and you said that Estilo was one of the most selfless players that you played with, and Taco is notoriously known as the selfless player, considering like what his relationship was like with Cold Air back on those SK and Luminosity teams. What was it like playing with a player like him who had won multiple majors at that point?
Yeah. I mean, obviously it felt really good. Bringing in Taco. Yeah, we just heard like it didn't really work out anymore with the team at the time that they're on SK, I guess at the time.
Mm,
And yeah, Steelego was somewhat like a similar player. I just felt like he was kind of like not up to par as Taco was, but they were very similar in their roles and the things that they were doing. And I mean, Steelega initially said like he just benched himself. Like he said like
oh
he felt
really?
like he wasn't as good as we are, and he felt like he was holding us back. Which at the time I didn't think was too true in my opinion. I think like he was still pretty
Mm,
good, but he made his decision and all that. So yeah, and then we ended up getting Taco. We heard Taco was being released from SK and all that, and Zeus and all that was talking with him to get him to come, and yeah, he ended up coming. And yeah, I mean Taco was probably one of my favorite teammates again that I played with. He him and I just got along like so well. Again, it was just like a rush relationship where him and I just like got along so well. We just felt like kind of like just brothers from another mother, pretty much, you know. So I remember even first meeting him in LA. Like I was just like going to the apartments and I was looking. I just saw him sitting at a computer and I was like, oh hey, like oh what's up man, you know, what's up Keith Naff man, nice to meet you. How's it going? And like literally right when I first met him, we're instantly just one on one with ourselves, like talking about setups, like before like we even have like days to scrim. Because I think when he showed up, like he was just doing media and all that, and we're like instantly within like the first couple minutes of just getting to know each other, we're already talking about like how we want to play and do things together. And I remember, yeah, no, I think like with playing with Taco, I think is like literally one of two players in my opinion that has like taught me and showed me a different way of thinking about the game and playing about the game, and it made me improve a lot as a player. And just playing sites with him and the amount of reliability that I had from playing with him, it was just he made me so good. Honestly, like honestly as a player, like he helped me so much. Maybe that's also why like Coldzera was like really insane.
Mm.
Obviously, Coldzera you can tell just by himself as an individual, he's insane. He's super smart. He knows when to do things. He knows when to move and not to move. Um, but I don't know. For me, just Taco made me improve a lot as a player with his ideas and the way of thinking and playing the game, and just treating me as like a teammate, and even playing bomb sites together because we played a lot of sites together. And you know, he's definitely one of my favorite players. He taught me a lot, and he actually really taught me something about Counter Strike when I was playing. And so when I look back at one of the players that was honestly one of the most influential on me, I would definitely say Taco was one of them.